Borderline, the 2020 Biennial of Contemporary Art, opens at your AGA and Remai Modern this fall. The exhibition at your AGA is presented by ATB Financial.
Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Lindsey Sharman. I am the curator of the Art Gallery of Alberta. I'm standing out front of the gallery now. You can see it there behind me. And today I'm going to be talking with Grace Law and Shawn, two members of the aiya collective. I was selected to be in the 2020 Biennial of Contemporary Art entitled Borderline that will be opening at the AGA and the Remai Modern at the end of September. The Biennial is an exhibition that happens every 2 years and looks at contemporary art in Alberta. Up until this year, the Biennial looked at Alberta and Alberta artists and those that are working within Alberta's provincial borders. This year, rather than looking at that strict geographical boundary, the Biennial instead focused on the territorial borders of the numbered treaty regions to also open a conceptual conversation around borders, which are prioritized and what it means to cross them, challenge them, or be in proximity to them. The Art Gallery of Alberta is situated on Treaty 6, as is our partner institution, Remai Modern. The AGA is also in Edmonton and is on the traditional land of diverse Indigenous peoples, including Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, and Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe. And to further situate the AGA, we're also just minutes from Chinatown. Grace, who we're going to be talking to today, is actually just down the street from me at the former site of Edmonton's Chinatown gates. And I am on my way now, taking the very short walk from the AGA to go meet her. Aiya was selected by the 4 biennial curators, myself, Francesca Hebert-Spence, Felicia Gay, and Sandra Fraser, because of their interest in the borders of Edmonton's Chinatown and their interest in the barriers to participation in public space. You'll probably see around me, there's tons of construction going on right now, and a part of this construction is the building of a new LRT line. That construction also, unfortunately, resulted in the city of Edmonton dismantling and moving the Harbin gate that once marked the entrance into Chinatown. Aiya formed out of that, and with the goal to encourage conversation around that move, to imagine and reimagine what the gate and what Chinatown could be, and respond to the cultural erasure and displacement of Chinatown, and to create space for radical dialogue among the Asian diaspora. So, Shawn and Grace, who we'll be talking to today, Shawn is a Chinese-Canadian filmmaker, artist, and educator, passionate about community storytelling and social change. He recently led a heritage art project, figure 12368, using Chinese ink paintings, audio, and film to tell Edmonton Chinatown stories, and is the creator of the intergenerational cooking show, Seconds, Please. Grace Law is a visual artist, community organizer, and cultural laborer who often works in public space. She was born and raised in Edmonton and now calls Chinatown home. So I'm actually just across the street from Grace now. Grace is going to tell us more about the collective, the work that they do, and what is important about the spot that we're now both standing on.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hi, I'm Grace. I'm part of AYA. And the reason why AYA formed is because of the removal of the Harbin Gate. The Harbin Gate is Edmonton's Chinatown gate, and it's an icon of our Chinatown. And it was removed on a very late and very cold November in 2017. The day after the removal, I remember standing at this very spot and looked at the vastness, the new vastness of the space, and felt a heavy weight of emptiness. And I asked myself, what is the role of the artist, and how are artists supposed to respond? So quickly AYA formed. I knew my memory was short, and I wanted to honor the site before I forgot this feeling of loss and care. So there are 4 of us who are core to the AYA collective, and some friends join in when they can. There is Lan Chan Marples, who is a historian, and Wai Ling Lennon, who's a teacher, and both of them are long-standing Chinatown community members. And there's Shawn and I, who are trained as artists. And together we make spaces for our community to remember and dream about what Chinatown means today. So let's see where...
Hi there, I'm Shawn. I'm part of aiya, and I'm on the LRT line, Capital line, going north, heading towards Coliseum Station to visit the Harbin Gate in storage. Usually when I go, I visit by car or bike, so this is actually my very first time going on the train, and I've heard that the view of the actual gate in storage is quite clear, and so I'm quite excited to check it out this way and show you guys what it looks like and how to get there. So let me just swap the view so that you guys can see what it looks like. So in our aiya projects, we reference the Harbin Gate and the removal, and so often we're asked, what is the state of the gate now? Where is it? And so, this is Coliseum Station coming right up, and so I'm excited to show everyone exactly where it is, how to get to it. Oh, I think I see it. So let's see how clear of a view we get. All right, there it is, right there, the orange rooftop. So we're gonna head towards that area. Yeah, so very, very clear view actually. Over there, basically all the pieces of the Harbin Gate were dismantled and put over there. So obviously it's not as high because a lot of the pillars that hoisted it up were also, part of that set over there. And alongside there's, the lions. We're here now at Coliseum Station. And you can see we're at the transit center entrance or exit, and we're actually just in front of the bus terminus, and we're gonna actually kind of go past the bus terminus and take a left past the larger road, and then you see this Amtech building. That building behind it is the storage site. So we're just going to make our way over there, and while we do that, let's jump onto the call with Lindsay and Grace and see where they're at. Hey Lindsay and Grace.
Hey, Shawn.
How's it going?
Hi. Thank you both for joining us. It's great.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay, for getting us together.
So I just kind of want to get a sense of kind of where everybody is. Shawn, you're quite far from us. But to just kind of situate us, I'm gonna switch. I can figure out how to switch my camera around. Dun, dun. There we go. So just down from me, there's Jasper. Here I am in front of Canada Place. And down the street, you can see her. Give us a wave, Grace.
Hey, Lindsey.
Yeah, so I'm on the site where the new gate will be. Grace is on the site where the old gate will be. And Shawn's on the way to go see the former gate in storage. So first up, I wonder if the both of you could just tell us a little bit about what does it mean to you to have the entry and therefore borders of Chinatown change? And what effect does that have on Chinatown?
Yeah, for me, well, traditionally, Chinatown gates serve as an entryway into Chinatown. So with the new gate situated 90 degrees in a block south, it serves a new function. It will serve as a memorial to the former Chinatown, where Canada Place is now situated. And so what does that say to us as a community when our Chinatown gate, an icon of Chinatown, serves as a function, serves a different function, serves as a memorial? Because to me, Chinatown is still a living community. And it's not something to museumify. And so that move, that plan, that tells me how the city planners value our community, and is kind of a foreshadow of what may happen to our community.
Yeah, no, I think Grace.
Shawn, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think Grace, mentioned a lot of really important things there. I think in terms of like the historical context, it's interesting to me, like not just studying Edmonton's Chinatown, but other Chinatowns as well, that it seems like there's no consistency when it comes to what the gate is. I mean, I think it's symbolic more than it is actually representative of like the starting of, the border, per se. I mean, the old gate, in a sense was on, along 97, and now the new gate is close, but it's directly on 97. So like the old gate was along 97, but facing 102. And so, so the change of things aren't necessarily reflective of, the border of like the true Chinatown. And if we're talking about like the current status of that area, which is technically not even named Chinatown right now. So where you guys are, it's currently in the process of being called the Quarters. A gate over there actually symbolizes basically an entryway to the Quarters. So it's not even, from the city standpoint, going to be documented as Chinatown, possibly in the future. So that's going to be interesting with the new gate going up, because I think from, a city standpoint, you're just going to be like, why is this area called the Quarters when there's clearly a lot of, Chinese looking monuments around, right? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess can you expand maybe on like that idea of naming, and kind of your thoughts on like, what does it mean to name something? Who gets to name something, and what do those names kind of identify and mean for you?
So, I mean, for me, I'm pretty, like, I've only started to become more aware of city planning in the last probably 2.5 years. So it's still relatively new to me about the processes, and even like naming itself is a very specific type of city planning process. And I'm starting to get to know a little more here and there, but I can't at all fully wrap my head around how it works. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, it's just kind of like I don't work within the city, and I don't really, so I'm just trying to get my head around it. And yeah, I can't really say too much from that part. But in terms of naming, for me, I think as a cultural, I consider myself Chinese Canadian. Like that title and my Chinese name, for example, they're very important to me because they're part of my identity and they're part of who I am. So when I hear about South Chinatown being renamed the Quarters as an official title, it saddens me because I think that area and what it means to the community that essentially built it from the ground up, officially won't have a name for a lot of the really important work that they did for the community. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like moving the Chinatown Gate and renaming neighborhoods, I think it indicates what's important to the city and what's valuable. And I think with the Quarters, the motive is to uplift this community and in a way that is beneficial for the city, without acknowledging the existing community. So renaming a neighborhood, it erases the memory of the neighborhood and the identity of a neighborhood. And it also it just speaks to the future of where the city wants to go. And to me, that's threatening as a person growing up in Edmonton, as a Chinese Canadian growing up in Edmonton. That is a gesture that for me means that maybe my identity and culture isn't really valuable in this neighborhood. Mm-hmm.
So or at least the work that you do with the collective, right. So kind of hoping to change at their own surroundings. So what do you hope that AIya can do to encourage a rethinking of public space for the Chinatown community?
Yeah, I think as artists and as people who identify as Chinese Canadians, I think we're using like the skills that we have and the privileges that we have to make space in public for our community to remember, to mourn, to celebrate. And with our work that happens in public space and happens in community, our hope is to create spaces of dialogue and conversation so that we can come along with our community that's important to us, to kind of think about what the future means for us together, because Chinatown today means something different than 100 years ago. And so there's a need for a reimagining of our future and how our future is alongside a very diverse people groups. What about you, Shawn? What do you think? What do you think is AIya's role?
I think in terms of public space, I mean, I'm out here, there's a fence in front of me, I'm on a public cycling track, right? And I've kind of did like a loop around, or just like kind of a circle around a bit of the site. So you can see it in over there. And one of the interesting things is, like, people that know that we do work around the Harbin Gate, they've mentioned, oh, you know, it's really sad seeing that the gate in storage like that, right? Like every time they pass by LRT, or if you bike over. And I mean it's outdoor in the facility, so right now you can see, like, this is a site for the LRT just to store things, and the city to store things. And so you see basically just a area to, I don't know, I mean, if you look at it, it just looks like, yeah, just throw your things over there, you know, like this is storage area, just put it over there, right? And so that within the context of, you know, this gate that's in limbo and or may not surface back into a public space is it's quite sad. And so I understand why people, you know, say that it is sad just sitting here. I mean, obviously it's not going to get damaged because it was always outside. So, you know, we're not, yeah, we're not necessarily like expecting, oh, that's cool, there's a friend. Yeah, so yeah, I think I think there's lots to say in terms of like our role as people, you know, active citizens here in Edmonton, and what we can kind of do in terms of public space and how we build our cities. So you know, this experience for me, you know, following the Harbin Gate has really given me a bit more of an understanding of how, you know, we were mentioning naming, how to be more involved in these kind of processes, and these really, I think, important public ways that citizens can like help inform how we shape our city. So.
Yeah, maybe you could just expand on that a little bit, of maybe what you think that like the role of citizens could be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge question, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning so much. I think one thing that's been really amazing, working with all the great folks at aiya, and the Chinatown community members, so not just Chinese Canadians, but all different, you know, diasporas, and you know, we're seeing also, you know, more involvement in the Indigenous community. Ochichiwan's popping up in the quarters as well, and collab. And so I think that we're starting to see, even though it's the Chinatown area, there's more support that isn't limited to just the Chinese community working together, you know. And I think Grace was kind of mentioning that, how, you know, historically, you know, when we, even the word, and it's a label that is, I would say, even could be controversial, because it indicates that this is an area just for Chinese Canadians or Chinese people, right? But that simply isn't true. And so having a label like that, and trying to think of the future of Chinatown, where it's clearly, you know, very diverse, and trying to find those unifying projects and that solidarity between the groups. I think that's one of the things that I think I'm really interested within my own journey, and I think that's exactly where the work in aiya is going to go, right? Like, how are we as a community going to shape what this Chinatown is, despite, you know, the possibly divisive label of Chinatown itself.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shawn. I think we can see that Chinatown is, there's intricacies in our community, like geographically and emotionally. Like, this isn't just Chinatown, this is also the inner city, and these are, and many people live here all throughout history. Many people have lived in this space. So what does a like with these displacements of our community, it feels like we're pushed away. So what does a future look like where we're all heard, and we're all respected, and public space is shared, without having to water down things, but actually like really value all of our unique strengths that we all bring, whether it's like aesthetics or culture. What does it look like? What does a diverse, a strong, healthy, equitable, diverse community look like in public space? And does that mean, like, I think that's really interesting when the biennial, it's called borders, and borders are used to, they can be used to protect, or they can be used to divide. And labels also do that too. Mm-hmm. And with the gate, it's a complex thing, because do the gates protect Chinatown, or do they limit Chinatown? And and when we go past these gates and we see that it's not just Chinese organizations and community, it's a multiple of communities. What does that mean? I think it's hard for me to imagine what an equitable and diverse community looks like, because I have no idea. I just have no idea. I think it's easy for me to like reimagine what a Chinatown community may look like, because I can be nostalgic and point towards what my ancestors might have done, but I have no idea what a diverse, equitable public space and community looks like. And I think it's a worthy question to imagine.
Mm-hmm. And I think
I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. To add to that
sorry,
as
go
well.
ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. To add to that as well, I think that, you know, the work that we're doing could be seen as subversive, or to cause up some more tension by, you know, the Chinatown community and even the city. But that, you know, certainly, and I just, you know, for the record, don't want to at all implicate that, because I think, you know, we as citizens, and you know, have the right to be involved and to be, you know, part of that. And so I think a huge part of this work for me is learning about how I can be more involved, and by doing some of this work, see how, you know, be essentially somewhat of a model to how neighborhoods can be shaped with my voice in mind, right? And so I think that's, you know, always been even the objective of like what cities want, right? Like if we have more input, then more people get heard. And so the work and this entire process is just seeing how this can add to that, you know, alternative narrative that maybe the city and the community haven't heard. And I think that's really important, because if we're talking about like a lot of the goals, which are like inclusion, multiculturalism, and anti-racism even, these terms, you know, currently they're not necessarily reflected in all the processes that we do. And so how do we become accountable to more of those types of things?
Could you just kind of maybe expand a little bit on some of the projects and some of the work and activities that aiya has undertaken?
Yeah, for sure. So one of our first projects is here at the site, and I'm going to point to this site. We felt like we were grieving when the Harbin Gate was removed, And so we gathered memories and wishes of the harbin gate from the Chinatown community and hung them on the construction fence. And in public space, it was just a way for us to remember that the harbin gate, you know, doesn't exist physically, but emotionally, it's still in our memories and in our community's thoughts. And yeah, Shawn, do you want to talk about another project?
Yeah, so oh man, the times and the years are like just completely past me right now, but about over a year ago, we were part of the Nuit Blanche Edmonton, and so we actually set up if you look at where Grace is kind of pointing on her screen, in that parking lot in front of the Windspear. It's the Windspear, I think. Yeah. And we set up a public kind of event called the Gentrification Party. And so it's right across from where the former site was. And we kind of just really wanted to use that as a place to allow the traffic of Nuit Blanche participants to know a bit more about what was currently happening. Because, you know, right now, if you look at the street, there's, you know, the nice new rail lines that are there. That used to be all like bulldozers and construction materials. And so even at that point, like over a year ago, it looked very different. And so we really wanted to, you know, involve like people in at least like visualizing how we really cared about all the changes that were happening. And so having this kind of gentrification party and with a number of different events, like programmed events that were directly on that site, we were able to get some pretty interesting conversations and dialogues happening on site. And I think you know, bring people's attention a bit more to the most common conversation was the contrast between high development and high living to the homeless situation and the urban social services that are over there. So it really is, I think, one of the things that we all know as Edmontonians and as probably Albertans, that there is this really big difference when we talk about rich and poor and class and also race, right? Like there is a lot of division there. And so how does that also play into these conversations of cultural erasure and gates being removed and whatnot? So I think it's very intersectional work, and things that we're actively exploring within our projects in the future.
And for the AGA Biennial, Lindsey highlighted a ghost plaque site project. So we're working with the Edmonton Historical Board to install a bronze plaque to remember the original location of the Harbin Gate. So that's the latest project, and we're really thankful to work with AGA and Lindsey on the programming of the meaning and the context behind this project.
Yeah, I wonder if we could just talk a little bit more about the work that you're showing at the AGA, because I think that your practice is not so much like a practice of things, if you will. Like, there are things, of course, created, and you are creating material culture, but it's a lot of conversation and space making And so maybe the both of you could just expand a little bit on, what was the process like for you in picking a work of art that is meant to be sort of static in the gallery, which, maybe is not totally representative of course, like the so many different aspects of what your practice is.
Yeah, because we've been working with public space for a while, we had to think about how our work would translate in a gallery. And with the plaque, we were really aware of how museums and galleries can colonialize objects, and especially with an object like a plaque. I know I was worried about how it would be presented in the gallery, and I was a little bit worried about people thinking that plaque itself is an artwork, but that's not the artwork. And that led me to questions of what is the artwork, and are we even making art, and does that even matter? And yeah, so those are the questions that we were working through and still work through. I mean, the question always is, what is the role of the artist in this context? And sometimes I think maybe making art in the traditional sense might not be the best way to address things, but yeah, I think it's a really interesting question to keep wrestling through, and yeah. So those are some of my ideas.
Yeah, no, Grace has got me like really thinking about it as well, because along with the plaque, we're gonna have a series of programs, like community programs that we're gonna try to direct people that see the plaque to invite them to come out and kind of join us in the community on a few different kind of tours around Chinatown and learn a bit more. And so that is one of the hopes in terms of really kind of showing the work that we do as artists, and how, as artists, like sometimes we think that there's a link between a concrete object, right? And so a huge part, and Grace mentioned this as well, is the fact that so much of what we're informed by is actually through what the community and public space and how we interact together to create. So yeah, like that in itself, in terms of like inviting AGA people, participants that are there that see our work, we really hope that they can be involved within that process as well, because especially if they're Edmontonians and they're interested in the shaping of what Chinatown looks like, that's essentially at the heart of a lot of what we're talking about in terms of being able to, as citizens, like shape our lands and meet our neighbors and build better relationships.
So yeah, we're just having a little bit of technical problems. Grace's phone has just died. But I think that this also could be a nice way to a nice point to sort of wrap Grace. That's okay. If either of you wanted to add about about your work, or any sort of final comments that you wanted to do.
I was gonna say that was so planned. Like, look at it. It's like perfect.
Maybe Grace, you can.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. No, I don't have anything. I'm just really grateful for making this space, Lindsey, and for the chance to speak to you.
Shawn, did you have anything you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
thank you everybody out there watching, and thanks to the AGA and the Chinatown community, all our supporters. We are like truly, very, very grateful and privileged to have all the opportunities to be able to, work here. And so, hope to see you around in Chinatown, and yeah.
All right, well, thank you to both of you so much. I'm so excited to be showing your work in the biennial, and you can see that at the AGA come the end of September. Thanks.
Bye.